All right, welcome back to Life's Wealth Development Group. My name is Matt Ditsworth, and today I'm talking with Chief Warrant Officer 5, 33 years, U.S. Navy retired, who is currently in transitioning from the United States Navy to the civilian workforce at this time. So welcome, Miko. How are you doing today?
Doing just fine, man. How are you?
Oh, doing great, thanks. Got to spend some time on board the USS Pearl Harbor today. That's always
nice.
Wanted to share. Yeah. So I'm just wondering, what if you could tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of how you got here today after 33 years of service.
Okay, Matt. Yeah, like Matt was saying, my name is Miko Felipe. I'm from the island of Lanai City in the state of Hawaii. I joined the Navy back in September 1983. Why the Navy? My dad was a military man in the Army. I had uncles that were in the Navy, and some of those sea stories as I was growing up kind of got to me, and I thought maybe it would be a nice, career move, or not even a career back then, something to do prior to, maybe going back to college. Joined the Navy. Did my 4 years, and after a while, I'm thinking, well, the Navy gave me a little bit extra money to stay, and after that, it was career-bound, saw where I wanted to go, been mentored by a lot of great people these last 33 years who are still mentoring me today in their senior years. I always go out and seek resource and advice from these retired veterans.
Right.
But yeah, that's a little bit about why I stayed in the Navy and what drove me to where I'm at.
Okay. That's great. I know mentorship is something that really helps people along the way. What do you wish you knew before you started? Before you joined the Navy, is there anything you wish you would have known?
I wish I would have known about the importance of Class A schools. I came in the Navy on the Navy Seaman Apprenticeship Program. Again, being on a small island, a recruiter comes once a year. So when I showed some interest, he said, yeah, let's join the Navy, and never really told me the importance of getting a school more than just wanting to get me in the Navy. So if I do it again, I'd look at more of the advanced electronics ratings, and maybe would have had a different outcome. I mean, not to say that my outcome was pretty good already.
Right, yeah, just something a bit different.
Yeah, I wish I did, yeah.
How about before retiring? Since you basically already went through the retirement portion and now you're transitioning, is there anything you wish you'd have known prior to that happening that would have helped out a bit more with that, if anything?
I would have focused more on my health and documenting my health record a little bit more. I didn't know how important it is to have a complete history of your medical record when you're looking at filing for VA disability. So it wasn't until the latter part of my years that the importance kind of made its way up. But if I knew that years ago, I could have started and been more diligent in documenting things like that, as well as taking advantage of the education piece early, which I did later in my when I became a warrant. But if I started a little bit earlier, maybe I could have gone further with my education.
Okay. So a little bit of education and health-wise. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, being in the Navy 33 years, what was your main job in the Navy? As a warrant officer, I'm sure that changed, but what did you do before you became warrant officer? And then even as a warrant officer, was it kind of the same?
Well, as I mentioned when I first came in on the apprenticeship program, for some of your listeners who don't know much about the Navy, but being a deck seaman is a pretty tough job. Transitioned into the operations specialist rating, similar to you working in the radar room and combat information center. At the 16-year mark, when I transitioned into the Chief Warrant Officer program, there was a difference. So now that you're an officer, vice an enlisted man, your responsibility is a little bit greater. Also, your career path kind of changes. As a operations specialist, your path is pretty clear to Master Chief and what you're going to be doing. But as a Chief Warrant Officer in the operations technical rating, there is some flexibility in doing other jobs, which I took advantage of. And I think taking those little harder jobs, more difficult, I think helped me reach the pinnacle of making W5.
Okay. And for those listeners that maybe never been involved in the military, the Navy, they don't understand that. What's the difference in, say, a warrant officer and then a regular officer or an LDO?
Yes, and I'm glad you brought that up. It's a great question. For many of us in the Navy who have the opportunity to get into the Chief Warrant Officer program, it's basically a bridge across from the enlisted rating to the Chief Warrant Officer rating or the officer rank, but you keep that technical expertise that you gain in your enlisted rating. You still work in that area of expertise. However, you're the technical manager, technical expert that can, again, bridge that gap if there's a gap with the commanding officers, with the senior officers from the Chief Warrant Officer ranks.
Okay. Would you go into that same line of work knowing what you know now after the years of experience?
Yes, I would. And to just add to your question, I have sought defense contract work with several of the leading defense consultants locally here in San Diego, as well as out in Hawaii, because I loved what I did, supporting the Navy and doing that job. I can say I miss it a little bit, but if I can provide our sailors some of the expertise that I still have, they can take it abroad and fight the ship, and I'm all for it. I want to do that.
Right. That sounds great. It's some people learn as they go that I don't believe in ever going back and changing what I did, because I wouldn't be where I'm at today. And some people, I can hear them say it. Well, if I would have known what I know now, I wouldn't do this. And it doesn't sound like that's what happened to you, so that's good. It sounds like you keep a positive motivation about it.
Yeah.
And you talked about mentors in your life. So, is there any mentors that stand out in your life, like who has had great influence on you, and how? And I guess who has influenced you, and how or why did they influence you?
Okay, when you go through a 33-year career, there's steps as you go through. My first 5 to 6 years, you always see Chief Petty Officer Michael Van Wert. This guy back in the 80s really instilled into me the importance of knowing your rate, reading, studying. You need to know it. And he made sure that all of us, including myself, knew what we needed to do, when we needed to do it. And I kept that attitude when I went to my follow-on tours. One standout mentor, he's a 3-star admiral now, Craig Fowler. my first tour on USS Freedom, he was the commanding officer there. What he instilled in me that I kept from 2000 to I retired back in September was the importance of leadership, being an officer, and the importance of taking care of your people. In several officer training modules we had on the ship, he had some direct influence on what I did afterwards and throughout my career. I sought his counsel several times when I was coming up on orders, so to map a road to Chief Warrant Officer 5, and he made some clear and decisive recommendations. So this is what you need to do. It's hard. You may not like it, but it'll get you there.
Got to do it.
Yeah. So, yeah, Admiral Craig Fowler is one of those. If not later in my career, was a vital resource for me and a mentor to get me to where I ended.
Okay, that's very good. It's always great. Mentors, even people. I think I have some mentors that don't even realize it. They're either authors or people that I've known, people that I've seen throughout my career as well. And you're right. In a long career, there's after this. So, is there any daily routines that you use that you believe led to your success, or that helped you over such a long career and on into the future?
Yeah. Another great question is, you gotta, one, keep your fitness, be healthy, keep your mind straight, and a couple of things that I was stealing from my parents. You talk about initial mentors. That's, I always lean on my parents, but you need to be, confident in what you do. I'm a very spiritual person that I do put time and effort into my faith, and that's important. As we get older, I'd never wait till later in life to get fit. As I see you in the gym daily, I try to be that example for others so they know, hey, don't wait till later in life when you have all these health issues. So that routine of mine, every day, putting some effort into my fitness and my spiritual growth, and making time for my family. Our job in the Navy is difficult enough that we miss special events, occasions, and whatnot. So when you have opportunity, or when I've always had the opportunity, make time, carve some time in your life, in your career. Make time for your family and make sure they kind of know that they're important as well.
Right. Okay. Yeah, the daily routine of the Navy can really grind on people. So the family thing is definitely important.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about skills? I always wonder about people that been doing something for a long time, or that have gone through transitions or challenges. What skills have you improved on that initially you may have said the words "I can't" in your life?
Well, I would say writing was very difficult as a young enlisted man. Even as I got through becoming a chief, effective writing was something that was difficult, but I was able to learn and kind of master that. Okay. The skill of listening, to where actively listen to somebody, understanding what they're saying, and provide, meaningful feedback or recommendations. I think you can go through life and you see people trying to talk over people, not letting people finish sentences, and trying to. Sometimes you just gotta sit back and listen. You know, that's another, I think, important skill that I learned that helped me be successful. And the other last part that I think helped me be successful was the skill of communication. Effective communication goes hand in hand with active listening, where you're not just speaking to be heard, by speaking to where you can provide solution, results, or an idea that could end up down the road being some kind of result. So those are the skills that were very, very difficult as a young enlisted man that, however, took some time and effort to master those, and hopefully helped me along the way.
Okay. That's awesome. I always hate to hear when people say I can't, and then they get stuck, that kind of self-talk, and then they kind of go in a circle, and all of a sudden then some actually then say I can, and they pop out of the circle and they feel great. So that leads to this next question is, what is the biggest mistake that you see job seekers making, if you have enough experience in that area yet? Or maybe even that you could let us know about.
I tell you that I have gone to several hiring fairs and job fairs, and I had several interviews. I think that one mistake is you got to know the balance between being more of a arrogant vice confident.
Right.
The other part that I think was very important, and I mentioned it earlier, was you kind of got to be within that interview. You got to listen and know what's going on. Mistakes can be where you're not paying attention and you're not answering the questions that are asked. So I think those things. Also, what's important is you need to show some humility, knowing that there's other people who are applying for their job as well. So there's a balance between being confident but humble enough, knowing that you're not the only guy.
Right.
Yeah.
Especially these days, a lot of people are looking for jobs.
Yeah.
Okay. One thing I remember in TAP class, they were talking about the myths between civilian and military, and what civilian people that never really been in the military thought about the military and vice versa. Can you tell us one myth that you heard about civilian people that either turned out to be true or turned out to be not true?
I haven't got there, or I haven't met many civilians who had this myth of us military men or women. Most of my interactions always been at or around the military. So I haven't got out there, so I don't think I could answer that question.
Okay.
Effectively.
That leads me to a new one. What is the worst information that you heard dispensed about life or transition? I guess I'm just asking that to kind of see the flip side of people may hear a lot of information transitioning. There's kind of a fire. So I always wonder about. I know it's all good and pertinent to each individual, but is there anything that you heard that you think maybe could fall into that area of the worst, or that doesn't even make sense, but it keeps getting put out? Does the question make sense?
A little. Let me see. Prior to getting out, some of the worst information I got, or this is just about a year or two, even in that last year, when you connect with old shipmates or trying to find a job. I've come across when you're on active duty and you're talking to some contractors or your friends, some of the information they put out is not correct. And I wish I knew that prior to getting out. I should have been asking more of the direct questions, whereas vague questions. Some of the worst ones I came across was, no problem. You're Chief Warrant Officer 5. You will find a job. Oh, no problem. And I'm like, well, that's not what I'm, I don't want to, it is what I've done. But it was difficult, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. And that reminds me of when I first got out, almost 20 years ago now. I first got out of the Marines, and then they told us, all the way through the Marines and getting out, that being a Marine, we would easily fall into law enforcement jobs and probably even skip to the front line. And I like that, and I went to the police station. And I said, "Hey, I'm here for a job," and he said, "Okay, get in the back of the line." I said, "Well, maybe you didn't know I was in the Marines. I just got out." And he said, "That's great. Get in the back of the line."
And that's similar for the people in the operations specialist rating like myself who are air controllers. We always, you got that stigma that, you can be an air traffic controller. Totally did two different things, So, people put that out, and those are just not false information.
All right. And I only have one more question if you have time for it. And it's what books do you gift the most or that you suggest the most for other people to read?
It wasn't until, recently that my daughters kind of got me into reading several books. But most of it, I will be totally honest that most of the time I'm reading pubs or messages or other things related to work. So when I come home, I don't have that, that I don't spend the time to say, let me get a good book. However, I have a daughter who's attending the University of Hawaii who has recommended several, and I wish I had the names in front of me, but these books that were motivational towards business. She's a business major, and it just talked about how real people, go through the struggles in making it through life. So I would say, for me, I would recommend, books that would, one, kind of talk about, it kind of drives inspiration to you. Something that will, you pick it up and it'll create thought, it'll create action, that you will get up and do something more than reading a book for pleasure, which is fine. So books like that provokes just thought, provokes communication with others, that you can talk about. I think those are the ones I would recommend to people. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, sounds good. I mean, that's kind of reading those pubs and all that throughout the day. Really, it's a straining thing, and it's a lot of reading.
It is.
So yeah, totally understandable. I know by the time, and it's like my dad too. I asked him to, hey, why don't you, get a computer at home? And he says, I'm on a computer all day. I don't want to see one at home too.
Yeah, exactly.
Same thing. But I really appreciate your time, Miko. I'll give you a chance if you have any last words, wisdom that you'd like to, have recorded here. And if not, that's okay too. But I really do appreciate your time, and I know it's valuable. So I'll give you the last shot, and then I'll just say goodbye at the end of it.
Okay. But, for your people who are listening to Matt's interviews here, take the time to listen to people's experiences, life stories, see where you can connect. But at the same time, I would say find your path, find your passion. Know that whatever role you're on, you're never by yourself. There's resources out there that will help you be successful. Truly, truly. So I am a product of people along the way who provided me guidance and influence to make tough decisions. I promoted where I needed to, but I never got to where I did in the Navy after 33 years without these mentors and people along the way. So for you who are listening, know that there are people out there that want you to be successful.
Right.
Like myself, I want you to be successful. So, get out there, find your way, and I'm telling you, and just enjoy the journey. I'm good there, Matt. That's good.
Yeah, that sounds good. I appreciate it. And like I said, I'll talk to you again here soon, and I appreciate your time. And those of you listening,
you're welcome.
Appreciate your time too. Yep. All right, Miko. I'll talk to you later on. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah.
All right.